But essentially resilience is about having flexible strength of mind. You need flexibility in order to be able to think of different solutions to different situations. In general, people always think about maybe two things to do when faced with a difficult situation to overcome. Ideally, if you're resilient, you want to have several different options and scenarios in order to overcome whatever you're facing. Having flexible strength of mind is all about being in control of yourself mentally. You need to be in control of yourself mentally in order to be able to access a whole lot of different solutions to potentially difficult problems. If, for example, your mind is dominated by an emotional response to something, whether you feel angry or upset or something of that sort, then your emotion is likely to dominate your mind and you're not in a position to be able to control it in order for you to think about solutions to difficult situations. So being resilient means that you need to have flexible strength of mind. So resilient people, generally speaking, have a real enthusiasm for life, and as work is part of life, they also have an enthusiasm for work. They're also very positive and can see the future for them and then really go for it in a big way. They can cope with threatening events without experiencing disabling distress because they have an attitude towards life that is positive, full of energy and determination. And they also have this flexibility, this capacity to see options and to adapt flexibly in order to overcome different types of challenges and different types of difficult behaviours. So resilient people basically know themselves very well. They also know themselves well enough that they know how to respond well to challenging events. And the same can be said for knowing themselves very well that they know how to deal with other people's challenging behaviours. So there are these three different elements to resilience itself. Knowing yourself well enough to know how to respond to different types of events, and knowing yourself well enough to be able to respond to different and difficult behaviours from other people. The framework we use for developing personal resilience is this 8-element resilience development framework. The first 4 down the right-hand side of the image that you can see are to do with being able to control yourself. This is all about self-awareness, understanding yourself and understanding what your limitations are and what your barriers might be. The next 2, which are along the bottom left, are to do with your ability to control yourself in difficult situations of chaos, basically, of challenging events. And the last 2 up on the top left-hand side are to do with your ability to control yourself in terms of responses to difficult behaviours. So we're going to use this framework in order to help to strengthen your personal resilience. So starting with the first one, which is about self-awareness. On each of these elements we're going to have a quotation, and I'm going to ask you to assess yourself mentally against a question that appears on the slide. So we've got the quotation here: resilience comes from understanding your own achievements, successes, and where you've come unstuck before. This enables you to understand yourself much more thoroughly. What I want you to do is to mentally assess yourself on the question below, which is, I usually know how others perceive me. If the answer is, I don't know, then you score closer to 1. But if you do know how others perceive you, then you score mentally closer to 5. So just mentally jot down how you score yourself. Now, the link to resilience is that the more you understand yourself, who you are, the more you feel confidence in yourself, and the better, of course, you understand others, because you can see in other people some of the characteristics and behaviours which you have for yourself. So knowing that means that you can understand people much better, and that helps you to be in control of yourself much more successfully. So the exercise that I want you to do is to do this. I want you to jot down somewhere 5 bullet points about what is it that about you that makes you so fabulous as a human being. So just jot down 5 ideas as to why you think you're such a fabulous human being. Okay, I think that's enough time for that. We'll go on to the next one, which is about determination. Now, determination is a feature of us which makes us do things right to the bitter end, even when we're diverted and our attention is diverted away from things, that we nevertheless feel determined to draw things to a conclusion or to reach a destination. So the question, or rather the quotation here is, as long as you're going to think anyway, you may as well think big. So you can become determined to do things which are really on a big scale. So I want you to answer yourself mentally the following question. I am determined to achieve my lifetime ambitions. If you haven't got any lifetime ambitions, or you're not determined to achieve them, then score yourself closer to 1. And if you do have lifetime ambitions and you do want to achieve them, then score closer to 5. And the link between determination and resilience is that the more determined you are, the easier it is to overcome challenging events and difficult behaviours. So developing your determination is an important part of being a resilient human being. Now, the essence of determination comes from your core values. Now, core values are the things that drive you. They're the things that explain the behaviours that you show to other people, which may be seen by others to be a little bit strange. You can always find out why you behave in the way that you do, because you can trace them back to what it is that you genuinely hold as value to yourself, because it drives you to do these things. So the exercise is to try and find out what your core values are. So try and imagine that it's your 80th birthday and there's a birthday party, and you're gathered at a family home somewhere in the country. It's sunny. It's June the 22nd, after all, the only sunny day in the year, and there are lots of people there to wish you well on your birthday. And you notice after a couple of drinks that everybody who's attending the party is sort of moving themselves into a position looking rather like a queue. And the first person in the queue is coming up to you and whispering something in your remaining good ear. What is it that the person is whispering, and who is that person? Is that person of some value to you, someone important in your life? And what is it that they're whispering in your ear that makes you feel absolutely fantastic and gives you this sort of sense of rosy glow, if you like? So I want you to think about a couple of people in the queue coming up to you and giving you a couple of comments. So what are the comments that they're giving to you? Now I want you now to think as to whether the comments that are given to you in your remaining good ear actually are so linked to you as a personality that they are the things which you would like to be remembered for. They're the things which make you feel good, they drive you, they are essentially who you are. And with a bit of luck, the comments that have been made will be those that link to who you are personally. So let's move on to vision. Here, yet again, we've got this quotation: if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up somewhere else. And the question I'd like you to answer mentally is, I can see my future clearly. If you can't see your future clearly, then you score between 1 and 2 and 3. And if you can see your future clearly, you can score between 3 and 5. So the link between vision and resilience is that if you've got a long-term goal as to what it is you want to do, your energies and your mind tend to focus on trying to achieve those long-term goals. They become the most important thing that you can do. And the consequence is that short-term diversions from the goals tend to diminish in their force so that they don't have the impact on you that they might otherwise have. So you're not, as it were, diverting your attention away from achieving your long-term goal. That makes you much more resilient to deal with short-term challenges to your well-being. So the question and the exercise here is, what do you really, really, really want to do? So I want you to think about that and to write down a couple of things that you really, really, really want to do with your life. Now, these may be things that you've picked up whilst you've been travelling abroad, for example, or it may be a hobby that you're engaged in now, or you may already be doing what it is that you really, really want to do. But just have a think about what it is that you really, really, really want to do. So now you've jotted those down, you've got to work out how to do them. There's nothing stopping you. All the research on this would indicate that if you've worked out what it is that you really, really want to do, you will do it. It's just a matter of attitude and determination and working out the practicalities of doing things which you may not already be doing or not started. So you've now got to work out how to do it. So let's move on. Let's move on to the last element to do with self-awareness, which is about self-confidence. And the quotation here is, "Ever notice that what the hell is the right decision?" I want you to mentally answer the question, I normally feel comfortable in a new situation. If you don't feel comfortable, then you score closer to 1, and if you do feel comfortable, you score closer to 5. Now, the link to resilience is that if you feel confident, you can do anything you wish. Now, confidence comes from the control of your anxiety. If you can control your anxiety, you can do anything you like. So all the exercises are to do with controlling anxiety, being on top of yourself, being in mental control, and also to help you to get back to being in control if you start to begin to feel anxious and you want to stop that sensation and you want to get back to feeling normal. So the exercise here is to help you to get back to feeling confident about yourself so that you can overcome anything. And so the exercise is as follows. I want you to think about the experiences in your life to date which have been fantastic, the sort of events that made you feel extremely happy, gave you that sort of rosy glow, made you feel fabulous, fantastic, whatever sensation you like. And I want you to think about those occasions and to then find a notebook somewhere and to write down in the notebook those occasions in your own words. Just record them. A bit of your autobiography, if you like. Now, put the notebook away somewhere accessible, not completely lost, so that when you're feeling a little down or slightly depressed, you can have access to the notebook quite easily. And once you take out the notebook and start reading about your experiences in the past, you will find that that elevates your mood and gets you back into being in control, really almost instantly. Now, there's a variation on this, which is a good thing to try and do, and that is to take the photographs that you've got on your memory stick, which you've never printed, and just have a look at all the photographs and select those that have given you a sense of real joy and happiness. There may be photographs of particular events like graduation or the time you met someone special, for example. And go and get those photographs printed and put them into a photographic album alongside the date and the occasion itself. You need to put the date and the occasion, the date in particular, because we're very poor at remembering precisely the dates of these events. So put the date. Then put the photographic album away again in some form of accessible place. And when you're feeling a little bit down and upset, just go and have a look at the photographic album, and you'll find that your mood will instantly be restored and you'll be back into mental control again. So those are the 4 elements to do with self-awareness. We're now going to go on to the elements to do with your ability to control yourself in the face of different challenging events. And we start with organisation. And the quote here is, if everything is under control, you're not going fast enough. So the question I want you to answer is, I plan my next day in advance. If you do that, then you score closer to 5. And if you've never done that, then you score closer to 1. So the link between organisation and resilience is that if you can control yourself in times of chaos, then you'll be able to find solutions to almost every challenge that comes upon you. And so the exercise here is to start by trying to work out how you spend your time. So the exercise is 168. How do you spend your time? 168 are the hours in a week. I want you to try and work out what the hours in the week are spent in your life. How are they spent? To help you along with that, I've put on this slide some of the sort of general amounts of time that people spend on different activities. Getting up, getting dressed, having a bath, at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, getting undressed, maybe having another wash, and getting into bed a couple of hours a day, for example. Eating, cooking, washing up, yeah, maybe another couple of hours a day. Shopping, possibly 4 hours a week, that sort of thing. If you ever do any housekeeping, then okay, 4 to 6 hours a week, unless you get your husband to do it or something of that sort. Then commuting, some people have huge commutes, but I've put down an hour a day. And the school run, if you've got children, maybe a couple of hours a day and so on to do that, which includes the family taxi run at the weekend. And 28 hours is put down there for recreational purposes, which might be looking at television, whatever social activities you're engaged in, or surfing the web, that sort of thing. So I want you to start working out how much time you're actually spending on different activities. And then I want you to add up how much time you spent and find out whether in fact you've got any time left to go to work. Because quite often you might find that all the other activities of the routine of the week consume so much time that you don't have any time to go to work. Now the point of all this is that once you start to understand what you're spending your time doing, then you can start adjusting your time and how much you're spending on doing different things in order to find time to do some of the other activities that you know you need to do, including some of these exercises in strengthening your personal resilience. And so this is the starting point of getting in control of what otherwise would be a chaotic expenditure of time. Excuse me. Okay, so we're going on to problem solving, which is the second of the two activities related to dealing with events. And the quotation here is, some people take no mental exercises apart from jumping to conclusions. The question I want you to answer is, I enjoy the challenge of unravelling and solving problems. And if you don't enjoy that, then you score closer to 1. And if you do enjoy it, you score between 4 and 5. So the link to resilience is that if you can solve problems, you can solve almost anything. that is thrown at you. So learning how to solve problems is an important part of resilience. Excuse me again. So the problem, or the exercise I want you to solve, is you've got a cake, and you can cut it with 4 straight cuts. How many pieces of cake can you get from 4 straight cuts? Now it's not a children's party, so the pieces of cake don't need to be of the same size. So you can have any size pieces you like, but how many can you get from 4 straight cuts? Okay, well, the answer is 16. Now, some of you would have sort of chopped the cake and come out possibly with something like 8 or 10 or 12. All cakes are at least 2 dimensions, therefore there's a thickness to it which can double the number of pieces that you've got if you slice the cake. But that isn't the way to do it. The way to do it is to chop the cake in half and put the 2 halves on top of each other, and then chop the cake again in half, and then put the 4 bits on top of each other, chop them again, and you've got 8 bits, and then the 4th cut you've got 16, and that's how that problem is solved. Now you can learn how to solve problems by practice, and if you want to develop your problem solving skills, there are plenty of books around. Have a look on the internet for the chicken from Minsk. I'll repeat that because that's not easy. The Chicken from Minsk as a title. Go and have a look at it. It's published in 1995, so it's old, but it really is a problem-solving guide and helps you to develop your skills over time. So, those are the 2 elements to do with dealing with chaos. Let's have a look at the 2 elements to dealing with people. We're going to start with interaction. Basically, if you know how to interact with people, you can have a conversation with anyone. You can feel in control of your interaction, so no one's behaviour will faze you. But the question here is, in general, I like people. If you don't like people, then you score closer to 1, and if you do, you score closer to 5. It's always a good idea to try and like people when you're interacting with them, because one of the key elements of interaction is attentiveness to other people. Anyway, the link with resilience is that if you understand how to interact, you can so interact with other people that you can persuade them to do the things that you want them to do without causing them any form of distress. One of the interesting things about stress is that people are the principal cause of stress. Therefore, if we know how to persuade people to do things without causing them stress, then that helps you to be in control of the situation without causing the other person to switch off because you're causing them stress. So the exercise here is the assertive message, and I'm going to describe what it is. Assertiveness is the capacity to say anything to anyone without causing them any form of distress. And the assertive message has got 4 parts to it. The first part is to always acknowledge the positives of the other person by recognizing the situation that the other person is in. It goes along something like, I know that you've got to clear up and finish all the work you've got to do this week because you're going on a holiday. Or, I know you want to be the best chef in town. Or, I know you want to be the best social worker. Something which really acknowledges the other person. In other words, the other person realizes that they're of value to you because you've said something positive about them. Then you say what you feel. I feel upset. I feel disappointed. I feel happy. I feel angry. Whatever it is you do feel, you state it. Then you say why. I feel upset. The report you promised for me this morning, you haven't delivered. I feel disappointed. This steak has been undercooked when I asked for it to be well done. So up to this point, you start off by saying something positive about the person that you're talking to. Then you say how you feel. Then you say the reason why. And then the fourth part of the message is to say what you want to see happen. I'd like to see the report you promised on my desk at 4 o'clock on Thursday, please. Or something like, I would like this steak to be recooked so it's well done. Thank you. Always be polite when you're asking someone to do something, because that reduces the risk of causing stress. So just to recap, 4 parts. The first part is to say something positive to the other person. Then you say how you feel. Then you say why. And then you say what you want to see happen. Now, the most important message is do not connect the first step, saying something positive, to the second. So you don't say, I know you need to get off on holiday on Thursday, however, I feel upset, distressed. Because as soon as you say a however or a but, it negates the impact of the positive statement. So the first statement should always be a standard alone statement. I know you want to be the best social worker in town. I know you want to be the best chef in town. Full stop. Then you say how you feel. I feel upset. I feel distressed. I feel happy, and so on. I hope you've got that. Okay, let's move on to the last, which is all about relationships. Now, relationships are important in resilience because if you've got important relationships that are very strong, then you tend to rely on that relationship to help you when you're feeling in a difficult situation. So the question here is, my most important relationships are my strongest. And if they're not, then you score closer to 1, and if they are, they score closer to 5. So just mentally score yourself. So the link to resilience is that people with important and strong relationships can withstand almost anything because you're not alone. You can call on your relationships to help you through the particularly difficult and challenging situations. So the exercise is all about mutual expectations. Now, one of the more general problems about situations at work is that people don't establish their mutual expectations one with another, and people have this sort of assumed expectation that they know what they're supposed to do without it becoming overt, and that causes quite a lot of difficulty. So the exercise is to really go through a situation of working out mutual expectations with other people. So you're in the middle and you have a conversation with one of your close colleagues, and you say to, let's say, the person at A, my expectations of you, Bill, are that you'll do the following things for me. And you spell out to Bill what it is that you expect Bill to do. And if Bill says yes, then you draw an arrow point coming from Bill, in other words, coming from A, back to you, as shown in the image that you're looking at now. So you draw the arrowhead coming from Bill to you because Bill is fulfilling your expectations. If you go over to Sally at B, and you say to Sally, Sally, tell me, what are your expectations of me? And once Sally's got over the shock, she'll then think about, well, boss or colleague, what I want from you is that I want you to be pleasant, crack a few jokes, and back me up all the time. And if you say, yes, okay, Sally, I can do that, then you draw an arrowhead coming from you towards Sally at B, because you're fulfilling Sally's expectations. So what we want is a situation where all your relationships have arrows going two ways, as shown in D, where your expectations and the expectations of your colleagues are mutually established and overt. This reduces all the risks of the relationship going wrong and enables you to strengthen your relationships with your colleagues, because you know exactly what's expected from them and you know what they expect from you. So there we are. We've been through the 8 elements. The reason for having the questions was to just get you to switch into the element itself and to enable you to form a judgment about how you feel about things. So I'll leave you with some tips. Always think and believe that you're a fabulous person, because you are. You just have to find out why. And once you find out why for yourself, of course everybody else is a fabulous person, so it's always worthwhile finding out why they're fabulous. Always think and believe you can achieve the big things in life, because once you work them out, the brain has the capacity of helping you to achieve them. Always try to keep an open mind about everything, because this enables you to find different solutions for sort of intransigent types of problems which are really difficult to crack. But having an open mind enables you to explore different ideas. Always try to stay tranquil, peaceful and calm, because then your brain, your mind is in more control and then able more easily to access different solutions to difficult problems, which becomes much more difficult if you're not calm. So that's why you need to control your anxiety. It gives you confidence. And always be attentive to other people, because attentiveness is the key behaviour that we all have, which helps us interact with others so much better. So thank you very much. If you want to know more, we have a resilience e-learning program which goes into a lot more deeper detail and takes quite a bit longer to complete. And we also have some guides on personal resilience, all available from the MAS website or by emailing info@mas.org.uk. I hope you found this brief session helpful. Go home, think about some of the exercises, do them again, repeat them, think about them, and that will help with your resilience. Thank you.